face the temple and open up.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done,
thy will be done,
in earth as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Today's scripture we read from Psalms chapter 80, starting at verse 1. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubim, and shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy strength, and come and save us. Turn us again, O God, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. O Lord God of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou feedest them with the bread of tears, and givest them tears to drink in great measure. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn us again, O God of hosts, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. I read for you Psalm chapter 80, verses 1 through 7. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and doing of his word in Jesus' name. Amen. Welcome to Bible Christians. Our today's lesson is called Ishmael and the Lost Nation of Israel and Edom. And Brother Paul will be our instructor today.
Thank you, Brother Devin. Welcome, everyone, to Bible Christians Fellowship in the Spirit. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Shabbat Shalom. I hope everyone has a great day of rest today. As Brother Devin said, the title of today's lesson is Ishmael and the Lost Nation of Israel and Edom. I'm going to have a little public service announcement before we get started here today. We do Black History here. This is our first time we're actually going to do the whole month that we're going to do lessons here. All the classes that know about who Israel is, we do Black History in February. I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm going to recommend that all of you that watch us at 2 o'clock, tune into the Israel of God this month at the 10 o'clock class. You can watch them and then catch us. No one does this month better than our pastor, Brother Boone. And I'm going to let it go with that. But if you get the opportunity, he's been doing this for 40 years. Some of the stuff he uses, the different things that he uses in the lesson, as well as history and everything else, it makes you go, man, why did I see that? He breaks it down so simple. So please tune in and then come back and catch us. The title of today's lesson, Ishmael and the Lost Nations of Israel and Edom. What we're going to do today is, I put this lesson together years ago because I was kind of doing February by myself back then. And every once in a while I'd have like a guest teacher would come in or whatever. But with Brother Devin and I doing it, there's some scriptures that I'm taking out at the end that are on the sheet. Don't worry about it. When we get there, I'll let you know which one's the last scripture. And when you don't hear me anymore, you know we're off the air. All right? I put this lesson together to kind of show the players in the game. This is kind of like a scorecard. It's going to show you who Ishmael is. It's going to show you who Ishmael is today. We're going to run down the lost nations of Israel and Edom. Because Edom is also a lost nation like Israel. And we're going to show you why that is. We're going to show you who Israel is today. We're going to show you who Edom is today. We're just going to show you. We're going to set it up. And then Brother Devin next week is going to go into detail about Israel. Then the following week, I'm going to come up and I'm going to show the Commonwealth of Israel. And then Brother Devin's going to deal with the lesson at the end of the month, something similar to the gathering of Israel and all God's people. So a brief surmising of how we're going to do this. But let's start this right off. We got a lot to cover today. Genesis, the 5th chapter. Genesis, the 5th chapter. A lot of people say color of Israel doesn't matter. Oh, I don't need to know the color of Israel for salvation. No, you don't. You don't need to know who Israel is for salvation. But here's the thing. The Bible was written by Israel, about Israel, for Israel. The master came and told Israel to only go to Israel, and then he said later to go to the other nations. This book is all about Israel. And if you don't know who Israel is, you miss major portions of prophecy. It's part of the book. It's probably, I want to be as honest as I can without knowing the facts, at least 80% all Israel. and probably more. And as a Bible Christian, we deal with everything that's in the book. How can you get around dealing with Israel? How can you get around dealing with the color of Israel? Israel is a nation. They're a race of people. But then when people start reading God's word that's dealing predominantly with Israel, we start thinking that this is some kind of spookery or some kind of fairy tale. This is a history book written before history came to be. This is the word of God given to us. If it's in the book, you need to search it out and rightly divide it. Every bit of this book is important, especially something that has 80% of a precept or so in it, and then you're not going to deal with it. It doesn't matter. That's ludicrous. Let's begin. Genesis 5, and we're going to start this off in verse 1. Genesis 5 and verse 1. Go ahead, brother.
This is the book of the generations of Adam. And the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. So
this is the generations of Adam and the day that God created man. We're going to do right now, we're going to show you the lineage of Noah. Skip down to verse 3 and go ahead, brother.
And Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth.
Adam lived 130 years and then begot a son in his own likeness after his image. And when he was at 130 years, his wife gave birth to Seth. Skip down to verse 28 and continue, brother.
Verse 28. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son.
Now, in between verse 3 and here, you can read all the parts of the lineage that goes all the way down to where we're at now. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And he called his name Noah, saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands.
So we see where Noah, he came straight out of Adam. Okay, skip down to 32 and continue, brother.
Because of the ground which the Lord...
No, verse 32, brother.
Okay, I was finishing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
32. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
I'll tell you what, I better take a step back, because this lesson excites me. So I apologize. I'm going to try not to cut you off anymore, brother. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, let's go right into Genesis, the 6th chapter. Genesis, the 6th chapter. So now we have Noah, we have his sons, okay, and we have them coming out of the lineage of Adam. Genesis 6 and verse 5, brother, go ahead.
And God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination and the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Similar to where we're at today. Similar to where we're at today. The great wickedness of man that was great in the earth. Every imagination of the thoughts of the heart, only evil continually. You can prove that yourself without any other scripture. Think about what you think about on a daily basis and some of the junk that comes into your heart. Your heart is only evil continually. That's why you got to guard it continually. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And it repented the Lord that he made a man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
Now, when the Lord made man, he saw that it was good. And man turned around and basically spit in the eyes of God, and it turned around that the earth got so wicked that it grieved the Lord that he created us. That's wicked. Go ahead, brother.
And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I created from the face of the earth, both male and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air. And for it repented me that I have made them. And Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation. And Noah walked with God.
And that's why Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord had repented him that he made man. He's going to destroy man. But Noah was a perfect man in the sight of God. He was perfect, and he walked with God. He walked with him. He was God's friend. And we know the God that Noah walked with was Jesus. We know that. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 10. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
So now we got from Adam, we got the generations coming down to Seth, that it comes all the way down through Seth, that it comes right to Noah, and now the Lord's going to destroy the earth, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord because he was perfect in the sight of God. And he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We're going to tell you who Ham and Japheth is, who their descendants are today. We can't possibly put this all in one lesson. So all we're going to deal with today are the descendants of Shem. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 11. The earth also was corrupted before God. The earth was filled with violence.
Isn't that something? Almost all the way right back to the days of Noah. You want to know what's going to happen in the end? You go back to the beginning, because God does not change. It is almost time for him to return and clean up this earth again. Go ahead, brother.
And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh and had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch.
So the Lord told Noah, I'm going to destroy the earth. I'm going to kill everything that breathes. But what I want you to do is I want you to make an ark of gopher wood. And then the Lord gives Noah specific instructions on how to build this boat, this ark. And he's going to give them, to the inch, how to put the nails, where to put the nails, how big the rooms, and the whole 9 yards. And Noah's going to go ahead and he's going to make this ark. Go over to Genesis, the 7th chapter. Genesis 7. And we're going to pick this up at verse 13, brother. 7 and verse 13. Go ahead.
In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark.
So Noah and his sons, his 3 sons, his wife, and his wife's 3 sons. The Lord had grace and mercy on them because Noah was perfect in the eyes of the Lord. He was the head of the house. He was doing everything that the Lord would expect the head of house to do. He was governing his family according to the word of God. He walked with Jesus before Jesus came through Mary, the one known as Yahweh or Jehovah, or the great I am. Noah walked with him, and the Lord decided to save his family and their wives. Go ahead and continue, brother.
They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creepy thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every sort, every bird of every sort.
And so the Lord also told Noah to take all the animals, a male and a female, and he had them take a certain amount of unclean and a certain amount of clean animals to preserve life, along with his 3 sons, his wife, and their wives, to preserve life. To preserve life, so they can come off the ship after the Lord had killed everything that breathed, and they can replenish the earth. Go ahead. You done with 14? Skip to 17 and continue, brother.
Verse 17. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and bare up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the water prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered.
So the Lord flooded the earth, and over the highest mountain, everything where something could breathe and could sustain itself was covered with water. So there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You can't tread water in a storm for 40 days and 40 nights. The Lord killed everything that breathed. The only thing that survived the flood was those that were on the boat.
15 cubits upward did the water prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both the fowl and of cattle and of beasts and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, every fowl, every beast that breathed, everything that creeped, anything that wasn't in the water died. Go ahead, brother. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died.
Everything that was in the dry land died. Anything that needed air to breathe was drowned. Go ahead, brother.
And every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and the creeping thing, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark.
So Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And you can read the rest of this on your own. Noah comes off the ark. He sets the animals free. They go and they replenish the animals on the earth. And him and his sons and their wives, or his sons and their wives, replenish the earth as far as humans go. Okay? Now we got a period of time where we're going to go down the road. Let's go right into Genesis, the 9th chapter. Genesis, the 9th chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1, brother. Genesis 9 and 1. Go ahead.
And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto him, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth.
And that's exactly what his sons did. Go to Genesis, the 11th chapter. Now we're a period of time after the ark. And Noah's sons have replenished the earth. Generations later, Genesis 11, and let's pick it up at verse 1. 11 and 1. Go ahead, brother.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm continuing into 2. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. I took verse 2 out of this earlier. So you have the whole earth, one language, one speech. Imagine this. Imagine our technology today. Everything from the time of electricity, maybe. And then you got all these great inventions, all these atom bombs, and all this nuclear energy and all this that was created by man, and yet man couldn't even speak the same language. So look how long it took man to evolve up to the point where they really started getting ahead in technology. Can you imagine if the whole world spoke the same language like they did back here? The whole world speaking the same language. You got Einstein and Wolfschmidt or whatever in Germany and Askahuski in Russia or whatever the case might be. All these people that the Lord gave knowledge that are genius level, if they all spoke the same language and came together, man might have been flying in the 15th or 16th century. Could have been earlier than that. There is no limit to what man could do. So what the Lord did is he went ahead and he scattered the languages. Skip to 8 and continue, brother.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. And they left off to build the city.
So the Lord scattered them abroad. And the way he did this is he confounded the languages. And then he scattered everyone. Brother Devin and I are talking, and we're talking, and hey, man, go give me a hammer. And he turns around and goes, I go, yeah, quit playing. Go give me a hammer, brother. Here, come on, get the 2x4s. And he looks at me kind of like, what are you, crazy? And he starts speaking again, and I can't understand him. The Lord confounded the languages and scattered all the nations. But now keep in mind, these are races of people. Out of the 3 sons of Noah. What verse are you at, brother?
Verse 9.
Go ahead and continue.
Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did therefore confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
So now when you don't understand someone and they're saying something to you, hey, brother, did you hear what he said? No, man, it sounded like he was battling to me. In other words, you couldn't understand what he was saying. So the Lord scattered the nations. He scattered them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood.
So now we're gonna look at the generations of Shem. And these are the generations of Shem, and you can read this on your own, but we're going to skip down to verse 24 and continue, brother. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begot Terah 119 years and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And
Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Let's go to 1 Chronicles, the 1st chapter, and let's see if we can place our finger here on Abram. 1 Chronicles, the 1st chapter. The genealogy book, right? Got any readers out there watching us that want to be readers one day? When I first started reading, this is a little side note, brother that was a very good reader said, before you go up and start reading, get yourself a couple days prep, go into Chronicles and start reading. Read about 3 or 4 chapters out loud and then go back and look at the pronunciations and everything. And when you get through a couple chapters of Chronicles, when a word comes up in a lesson, you fly right over it. You don't even mispronounce nothing. Sure you do it for me. 1 Chronicles 1 and verse 17, brother. 1 and 17. Go ahead.
The sons of Shem, Elam, Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Amram, and Uz, and Hul, and Gerther, and Meshach.
And you can do the same thing. You can read down. We're going to skip to 26 and continue.
Terah, Nahor, and Terah. Abram, the same as Abraham.
And Abram, the same as Abraham. So we're looking at the same Abram, the one that is known as Abraham, that the Lord changed his name as we were looking at in Genesis. Let's go back to Genesis, the 16th chapter. Genesis, the 16th chapter. We got the scattering of the nations. We got the generations of Shem. Okay? Now let's take a little bit of a look at Ishmael. Take a little bit of a look at Ishmael. We'll get into the 12 tribes a little bit later. Genesis 16. Genesis 16. Genesis 16, and we're going to pick this up in verse 1. Go ahead, brother.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar.
Now this Abram was the same one we're reading about here, whose name was Abraham, and his wife's name at the time was Sarai, and she couldn't bear any children. She was barren. So she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Go ahead, brother.
And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai.
So Sarai couldn't have any children, but she wanted Abraham's lineage to continue. She wanted him to bear children. So she sent Abram unto her handmaid Hagar, thinking that she could have children that way, that Abram could have children. Go ahead, brother.
And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after that Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
So now Hagar went and she conceived, and when she did conceive and had a child, she was despised by Sarai. Sarai had good intentions. She wanted the seed of Abram to continue, but now she's jealous. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. And the Lord judged between me and thee.
She said, the Lord will judge between me and thee. But look what Abram said to Sarai. Go ahead, brother.
But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand.
Said, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Go ahead.
Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt heartily with her, she fled from her face.
So Abram said, you go ahead and you deal with her the way you want to deal with her. You're my wife. You're my wife, Sarai. And so when Sarai started dealing harshly with Hagar, Hagar fled. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, and by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence comest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai.
So the Lord sent an angel unto Hagar when she fled and said, why are you leaving? Where are you going? Why are you leaving? Go ahead, brother.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself unto her hand.
So she told the angel, it's because my mistress, she's not treating me right. She doesn't like me anymore. I'm despised in her eyes. And the angel told her, what I want you to do is return to your mistress and submit yourself unto her. Go ahead, brother.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude.
Now remember this down the road here. The angel of the Lord came unto Hagar and is telling Hagar how her child is going to be blessed. The same thing is going to happen down the road. We're going to read about that too. Go ahead, brother.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and thou shalt bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction.
So the angel told Hagar that you're going to bear, that you are with child, you're going to bear a son, and you're going to name him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. Go ahead.
And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brothers.
This is prophecy about the descendants of Ishmael. Okay? The Bible doesn't tell you who Ishmael, Israel, and Edom straight out, who they are today. But when you piece it together, you'll find out who they are today. And this is one of the prophecies about Ishmael. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Okay? Go to Genesis the 17th chapter. Genesis the 17th chapter. So you had the angel appeared unto Hagar, the mother of Ishmael, before he was even born, and told her about the blessing that her son was going to get. Genesis 17, and pick it up at verse 1, brother. Go ahead.
When Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And
the Lord got something about walking perfect. He had grace on Noah because Noah was perfect in his eyes. He walked perfect before him. Now he appears unto Abram and he says, walk before me and be thou perfect. Being perfect in the eyes of the Lord is just obeying his voice. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be called Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee.
So the Lord tells Abram he's going to change his name to Abraham, and he's going to make him the father of many nations. Of many nations. And Abraham, we read it earlier, comes out of the lineage of Seth. So Abraham is the father of many nations. We're not going to deal with the terms of the covenant and everything. Skip down to verse 15 and continue, brother.
And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarah thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be.
So now after the Lord makes the covenant with Abraham and tells him what he needs to do in the token of the covenant and everything, Brother Devin covered that not long ago, the Lord says, and God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you don't call her Sarai anymore. You're not Abram, you're Abraham. From now on, Sarai's name will be Sarah, and that's what you shall call her. Go ahead, brother.
And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her.
And the Lord said, I'm going to bless Sarah. I'm going to give you a son also of her. I will bless her. She shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall come out of Sarah. Skip down, or that's good. You know what? Yeah, go ahead and continue, brother.
Then Abram fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah be that is 90 years old there? And Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah, thy wife, shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
So Abraham said to God, and I know it's different on the sheet, don't worry about that. We're going to come back to Ishmael, God hears in a minute. Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before me. And God said, Sarah, your wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And the covenant is going to come through Isaac, and it will be an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 20. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
And as for Ishmael, I've heard you, Abraham. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him a fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. So now the Lord appeared unto Hagar, told Hagar the blessing of her son Ishmael, and now the Lord turned around and is telling Abraham that blessing. Let's take a look at Ishmael. We got a little history here. This is something called Ishmael. God hears, and then we're going to come back to verse 21. Ishmael, God hears. Do you have that, brother?
I got that.
I'm going to go to Ishmael, God hears first.
All right. It's on the back of the
Okay, you got that? Go to Ishmael, God hears, and let's read that.
It's on the back of the list. Ishmael, God's here. Abraham's eldest son, by Hagar the concubine. He was born at Mamre, when Abraham was 86 years of age. 11 years after his arrival in Canaan. At the age of 13, he was circumcised. He grew up a true child of the desert, wild and waiting. On the occasion of his weaning of Isaac, his rude and wayward spirit broke out in expression of insult and mockery. And Sarai discovered this, said to Abram, Expel this slave and her son. Influenced by divine admonition, Abraham dismissed Hagar and her son with no more than a skin of water and some bread.
Go ahead,
the
brother.
natives described this act in one of the most beautiful and touching incidents of the patriarch's life. Ishmael settled in the land of Haran,
Uh-huh.
a region lying between Canaan and the mountains of Sinai. And God was with him, and he became a great archer. He became a great desert chief but of his history little is recorded. He was about 90 years of age when his father Abraham died, in connection with whose burial he once more for a moment reappeared.
Uh-huh.
On this occasion, the two brothers met after being long separated. Isaac with his hundreds of household slaves, Ishmael with his troops of wild retainers and half-savage allies, and all the state of Bedouin prince gathered before the cave of Machpelah in the midst of the men of Het to pay the last duties of the father of the faithful.
Go ahead, brother.
Would make a notable subject for an artist. Of the after events of his life, but little is known. He died at the age of 137 years, but where and when are unknown.
Uh-huh.
He had 12 sons who became the founders of so many Arab tribes and colonies. The Ishmaelites, who spread over the wide desert space of northern Arabia, from the Red Sea to the Euphrates.
Uh-huh.
Their hand against every man, and every man's hand against them.
So the descendants of Ishmael are the Arabs. And we're going to go to one other place. It's not on the sheet. It's from Wikipedia. Read that right there about the Jewish and Islamic traditions.
Both Jewish and Islamic tradition consider Ishmael as the ancestor of Arab people.
So Ishmael is the ancestor of the Arab people. And he's a wild man. Arabs, they're wild men, and they dwell in the midst of their brethren. They settled in around the Palestinian area. And when you look at the descendants of Ishmael that we're going to read about here, I know I switched it up a little bit. We'll be all right. When you read about their descendants and you look at these 12 princes and you go and you try to trace them down today, it's some very interesting reading on everything that's going on with Ishmael and all his descendants. But Ishmael's descendants are the Arab nations, and they have been blessed, just like the Lord said that they would be blessed. And their hand is against every man, and every man's hand against them, and they dwell in the midst of their brethren. Now, let's go to Genesis, the 25th chapter. Genesis, the 25th chapter. If I start getting lost a little bit here, I'm going to apologize now from the get-go, because I shouldn't have done it, but I tweaked this lesson again this morning. Genesis 25, and let's pick it up at verse 12, brother. 25 and verse 12. Go ahead.
Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, who Hagar the Egyptian, Sarai's handmaid, bare unto Abraham.
So these are the generations of Ishmael. Go ahead, brother.
And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generation. The firstborn of Ishmael is Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam. Sorry, bro. And Mishma, and Duham, and Mesa, and Hadar, and Tema, and Jeter, and Naphthish, and Kedema.
And he's doing great because he was in First Chronicles this morning. Go ahead, brother.
These are the sons of Ishmael. These are their names by their towns, by their castles. 12 princes according to their nations. 12
princes according to their nations. And we just read Ishmael, God hears, and we know what those 12 princes are. They are just like Israel had 12 tribes, so did Ishmael. And they became a great and mighty nation. Let's skip down to verse 19, and let's continue, brother.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac.
Now these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. And Abraham begot Isaac. Go ahead.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And because of Isaac, petitioning the Lord, his wife Rebekah conceived. Go ahead, brother.
And the children struggled together within her.
And the children struggled together within her. Anyone that's been a father or any sister that's been a mother, you know how when the baby starts to develop and gets older, all of a sudden you see a face or you see a hand or a little foot sticking out. And sometimes the baby, depending on what you eat or drink or whatever, can start rolling around and doing somersaults and getting all kinds of crazy. Can you imagine 2 children? Some of you sisters have had twins. So you know what that's like. You've got 2 children, and sometimes they ain't getting along. You know what I'm saying? You're inside that little area and you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and your brother or sister's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start feuding. Well, this time we're going to see what happens. Go ahead, brother, continue.
Verse 22. And her children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the
So
Lord.
these children are struggling within her, and so now she's going to entreat the Lord. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 manner of people shall be separate from thy
Now
bowels.
look what the Lord said. 2 nations are in your womb. Not just 2 brothers. You got 2 nations. You got the 2 babies that are going to be the head, or these 2 great nations are going to come out of these children. Go ahead, brother.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the young.
Now notice, the Lord appeared, or however the Lord did it, he said unto Rebekah, just like the Lord had the angel go unto Hagar. So the Lord is talking to the woman. Abraham or Isaac's got no idea of what's going on yet. And the Lord comes to Rebekah and tells her, you're going to have 2 nations are in your womb. 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels. The one people shall be stronger than the other, but the elder shall serve the younger. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Verse 24. And when her days to deliver were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
The older, or the first that came out, they called Esau. He was red and hairy all over. Go ahead.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
And after Esau was born, out came Jacob, and he took hold of Esau's heel. So Jacob was the younger of the 2. And the Lord told Rebekah that the older was going to serve the younger. Skip down to verse 29, brother, and continue.
And Jacob saw a pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint.
Now, pottage is nothing more than something that's it's a common food that's boiled, and they liken it to being like lentils, like beans. So it's like a bean soup or a bean stew. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom.
Go ahead, brother.
And Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright."
So Esau comes out of the field, and he's apparently he's probably starving. He thinks he's going to die. And he tells Edom, "Feed me some of that pottage." And Jacob, or he tells Jacob, Edom tells Jacob, "Feed me some of that pottage." And Jacob said, "Sell me this day your birthright." Because the firstborn is the one that got the blessing. Go ahead, brother.
And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?"
So Esau was so hungry, he thought he was at the point to die. And he's like, okay, great. I'm going to get the blessing when Dad dies, but I'm going to die now. What good's the blessing? What good's the birthright going to be for me? Go ahead.
And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
Remember, the Lord said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And when Esau told Jacob, "I swear to you, you can have my birthright for this pottage," that was it. It was etched in stone, as they say. Go ahead, brother.
Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage from lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
So Esau despised his birthright, or he gave it away. He gave it to Jacob. Let's continue. Let's go to Genesis, the 27th chapter. Genesis, the 27th chapter. Let's look at Jacob's rightful blessing. Because remember, the angel appeared unto Hagar. The angel told the woman about the child that she was carrying and how it was going to be a child that was going to be the head of a great nation. Talking about Ishmael. Well, the Lord appeared unto Rebekah and told her that inside her were two children struggling, and each one was the head of a great nation. And that the older would serve the younger. So the older then turned around, the eldest child, Esau, sold his birthright to Jacob. Even though Jacob's name means supplanter, like kind of came in the back door and stole it, that's not the way this went down. The way the Lord had it set up was the way it went down. And we're going to read about this blessing now. Genesis 27, and pick it up the first one, brother. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau's eldest son and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I.
So Isaac's old, his eyes were dim. In other words, he can't really see that well anymore. His senses are starting to go. He's getting up there in age. He's going blind. His hearing's probably starting to go. His sense of smell and everything. Just like we have parents and we have relatives and friends that are up there in age. And this part of getting old, part of life. It happens. This body is constantly turning back to dust. Go ahead and continue, brother.
And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the days of I know not the day of my death.
He doesn't know what day he's going to die, but he knows he's getting there. Because now everything's hurting him. He can't even get out of bed. Go ahead, brother.
Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die.
Go ahead, brother.
And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it.
So Esau was obedient. His father said, Go and make me the venison that I like. You're the hunter. You know how to make this venison. I've been eating for years. I love this stuff, man. Go make me some venison, and I'm going to give you your blessing. And Rebekah heard it. Go ahead, brother.
And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord, before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death.
So now Rebekah turns around and he grabs Jacob and he says, Listen, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go get something out of the goats or out of the lambs or whatever. You're going to get this, and you're going to bring it to me. Kill it, bring it to me, and I'm going to make this great feast like your father loved. And you're going to go in and you're going to get your blessing that's rightly yours. Go ahead.
And Jacob said to Rebekah and his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man.
Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. The Lord's always throwing you little tidbits here and there about who's who today. The thing is, you got to rightly divide, and you got to pay attention. So the descendants of Esau are hairy men, okay? And the descendants of Jacob are smooth men. In other words, not a lot of hair everywhere. Keep that in mind down the road. Go ahead and continue, brother.
My father peradventure will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing.
And now Jacob, he's tripping for a good reason here. He's like, no, wait, Mom, you know, my dad's going to find out about this. Instead of me getting the blessing, I'm going to get cursed. What are you trying to do to me here? Go ahead.
13. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, and my son, only obey my voice, and go fetch me them.
One other thing I want you to pay attention here is we're reading these stories today in the scripture. We've read a lot. We're going to continue to read some good stories here, okay? But this is history, all right? Look at what seals the deal. It's always the vow. It's always the vow that seals the deal. There's no contracts. There's no writing. There's none of this. It's the words, the vow. And the Lord said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And Jacob voiced his opinion to his mother. Of course, Jacob was raised in the way, because we know that the blessing had to go to Isaac, because the Lord said, I'm going to bless through you, Isaac, onto Jacob, because Abraham kept all my commandments, statutes, and judgments. You can go back to Genesis 26 and read that. So Jacob was raised in the way, and he said, Mom, wait a minute, that's deceit, that's lying. I'm going to get cursed for that. And his mother said, you go do what I told you to do, son. And him being raised in the way, he said, yes, ma'am. and he went to take care of business. And she already knew what the deal was. She knew he had to get the blessing. She said, if something goes wrong, the curse will be on me. Don't worry about it. Just go do what I told you. Because she knows she's not going to get cursed. This is the way the Lord set it up. The Lord already told her his plan. Go ahead, brother.
And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck.
So she took and she's setting him up to go get the blessing. She knows he's smooth in Esau's hair. She takes raiment from Esau, puts it on him. Now he's going to smell like Esau because he's wearing Esau's clothes. Okay? And then she takes some skins of the kids of the goats and puts it on his hand and on the back of his neck so that when Isaac reaches out for him, it'll feel like Esau. Go ahead, brother.
And she gave the savory meats and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, my father, he said, here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn.
So he's not lying, he's obeying his mother. His mother told him what to do to go in there and how he was going to get this blessing, and he's obedient to his mother. He's honoring his mother. And he goes in and he says, it's me, it's Esau. Go ahead.
I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless thee.
Go ahead.
And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God brought it to me.
And he hasn't lied. He said, because the Lord God brought it to me. And the Lord God did bring it to him. Go ahead.
And Isaac said unto Jacob, come nearer, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not.
Remember, Isaac's starting to lose all his senses. He's dim of eyes. He can barely see, probably barely hear and smell, but he can feel. He's not a fool. He hasn't lost his mind yet. Go ahead, brother.
And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy, and his brother Esau hands. So he blessed him.
So he felt him. He said, you got the voice of Jacob, but your hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy. In other words, he didn't realize that it was really Jacob. And he went ahead and he's going to bless him. Go ahead, brother.
And he said, art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank.
So he's feeding his father. Go ahead.
And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near, and he kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field which the Lord hath blessed thee. Therefore God give thee the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and a plenty of corn and wine.
Go ahead, brother.
And let people serve thee, and the nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesses thee.
Now keep this in mind, sisters and brothers. Jacob, later on, the Lord's going to change his name. He's going to change it to Israel. And this is where the descendants of the nation of Israel come out of Jacob, when his name was changed to Israel. And that's how you have the nation of Israel was formed. But look at these blessings, sisters and brothers. Let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. And this is a blessing forever. You better find out who Israel is. Because if you're cursing Israel, you better hurry up and come under that shed blood and get that sin erased. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 30. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau's brother came in from his hunting.
So now Jacob gets the blessing. He gets it from his father. He goes ahead and he leaves, and Esau comes in from the field. And he's ready to get his blessing. He went out, he got the venison, and he cooked it and everything. Go ahead, brother.
And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father. and said unto his father, Let my father arise, and eat of thy son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou?
Isaac's thinking he already blessed Esau. And now he said, well, who are you? Go ahead.
And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau.
I am thy son. I'm your firstborn Esau. Dad, you just told me to go hunt and get you some venison, cook it, bring it in, get you some wine and everything, and you're going to bless me. I'm Esau. Go ahead.
And Isaac trembled very exceedingly.
And Isaac trembled very exceedingly. Isaac realized what he had done now. Go ahead.
And said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed.
And I blessed him, and yea, he shall be blessed. Sisters and brothers, I fall short all the time. But a lesson like this, when you're looking at this is telling you how important letting your yea and your nay be. When you say you're going to do something, it's a vow. The Lord requires it of you. If you say you're not, you don't. If you're not sure, say maybe, I'll get back to you. Or if I'm gonna, I'll get a hold of you or whatever. But the Lord is very particular on the words that come out of your mouth. Go ahead, brother.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceedingly bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father.
He said, Bless me too, father. Go ahead.
And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he have supplanted me these 2 times.
He has supplanted me these 2 times, but he never supplanted him, not even once. The first time, Esau gave it to Jacob. The second time, Rebekah just made sure it went down the way the Lord said it was going to. Go ahead, brother.
He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me?
And he said, Don't you even have a blessing for me? He's taken away my blessing. Don't you have one for me? Go ahead.
And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
And Esau lifted up his voice. He said, Well, you got just one blessing, father? Come on, bless me too. Go ahead.
And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
So Isaac went ahead and he gave Esau a blessing too, but he told Esau in the blessing that he was going to serve his brother. And that was the fulfilling of the prophecy that the Lord, when the Lord appeared unto Rebekah, which was probably through an angel, because that's the way the Lord operated then, just like he did with Hagar, the blessing was given to Isaac. And then Esau turned around and got a blessing too. But Esau was the firstborn, and the Lord said that the older would serve the younger. And Jacob was the younger. Let's continue. Let's look at the promise to Jacob. Let's go to Genesis, the 35th chapter. Genesis 35. Genesis 35. And let's pick it up, brother, at verse 9. Genesis 35 and verse 9. Go ahead.
And God appeared unto Jacob again, when he came out of Padanaram, and blessed him. And God said unto him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel.
So now the Lord changed Jacob's name from Jacob to Israel. Go ahead, brother.
And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac to thee, I will give it. And to thy seed after thee will I give the land.
So now he's just following along with the promise that the Lord made to Abraham. The Lord made it to Abraham, made it with Isaac, because Abraham kept all God's commandments, statutes, and judgments. And it went from Isaac to his son Jacob. And it was the way the Lord had set it up. Jacob didn't steal anything. It's the way that the Lord wanted it done, and it's the way that the Lord made sure it got done. So Esau was going to be a great nation. Jacob, later his name changed to Israel. Israel was going to be a great nation. And we already read about Ishmael was going to be a great nation. So we broke down Israel a little bit, or Ishmael, a little bit. Let's look at the generations of Esau. Let's go to Genesis, the 36th chapter. Genesis, the 36th chapter. And I'm not going to get too deep in here. In fact, I'm not even going to start any controversy. We're just going to read. 36:1. Go ahead, brother.
Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom.
Uh-huh.
Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elam, the Hittites, and Hoibama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zebion, the Hivite, and Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajah. And Adar bare Esau Eliphaz, and Bashemath bare Reuel. And Ahoibama bare, what's that? Jewish, and Jalam and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which was born unto him in the land of Canaan.
Now, these are the sons of Esau that were born unto him in the land of Canaan. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Verse 6. Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and all his beasts and all the substance which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. For their riches were more than that they might dwell together. And the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus dwelt Esau on Mount Seir. Esau is Edom.
So thus dwelt Esau on Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Now you had 12 princes out of Ishmael that became like 12 tribes. We're going to show you got 12 that comes out of Israel. But some of these descendants of Esau were already in the land. So I don't believe there were 12, but we'll deal with that another time. Let's look at the 12 tribes of Israel. Let's go to Genesis, the 35th, Genesis 35. Genesis 35, and we'll pick it up at verse 22. 35 and 22. These are the descendants of Jacob, whose name was Israel, that makes up that great nation of Israel. These are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Go ahead. 35 and 22, brother.
And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in the land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12.
Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Go ahead, brother.
The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. And the sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padanaram.
So now we looked at the princes and the lineage, the descendants that came out of Ishmael. We've looked at the lineage and the descendants that came out of Esau. We've just looked at the lineage or the descendants that came out of Jacob, who the Lord changed his name to Israel. Because Israel was the Lord's first adopted. And the Lord gave Jacob his name and made it Israel. Now, let's look. We've identified who Ishmael is. It's the Arab nations. The original Arab nations. Okay? Like you have, for instance, Egypt came out of Ham. Egypt was a dark race people or a black race people. Who you have over there in Egypt now is not the original Egyptians. You've got Arabs over there now, descendants of Ishmael. And you can go back in history and you can look at it, and you can see where Egypt was overrun, where they were conquered by Arabs, and that's why you've got Arabs in Egypt today. You got to prove this, sisters and brothers. The Lord gave you the book, but he also gave you common sense. You can trace down who these descendants of Shem are today. Let's look at the descendants of the nation of Israel, and we will be dealing with Israel all month long. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Brother Devin is going to go in depth in the next couple of weeks In fact, next week. So what we're going to do is we're just going to touch on some of, or on the major blessing, and then some of the curses. And that's how you can actually see who the nation of Israel is today. By the curses. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15, brother, go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So now the Lord set it up so that Israel, his chosen people, to carry his message to the rest of mankind on how to regain the right to the tree of life, or how to regain the right to live forever with him and the Father. And he chose Israel. We're all God's people. We're all God's children. We all come out of Adam. After the flood, we came out of the three sons of Noah. Everyone that's on the earth today. We're all brothers. We're all sisters. We're just removed. What's that one movie, The 6 Degrees of Separation or whatever? That's deep. We're all related one way or another. Because we're all sisters and brothers. And the Lord chose Israel, his eldest son, his first adopted, to bring the rest of the children home. To show them the way back to eternal life. And now let's look at the descendants of Jacob, the nation of Israel. These are the curses that were placed upon them. Some of them. Again, Brother Devin will go more in depth. Skip to 25, brother, and continue.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them.
All that means there, you're going to go one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. You go into a fight, you and 15 of your buddies, and you're getting beat down. You're not walking away the same way you came. You're running for your lives every which way you can. You go one way, and you flee 7 ways. Go ahead.
And thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
And now look at that key word, remove. Thou shalt take a vacation in all the kingdoms of the earth. No, you're going to be removed. You're going to be physically forced to vacate where you're at and scattered throughout all nations. Skip to 36 and continue, brother.
And the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou hast set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. 37. Thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword among all nations when the Lord shall lead thee.
Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations when the Lord shall lead thee. There is one nation today, and one nation only, that is a great proverb and byword amongst all nations. And we'll get to that in a minute. Skip down to 41 and continue, brother.
Thou shalt begot sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. All thy trees and the fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
And these curses are the complete opposite of the first 15 verses in this chapter. All these curses, the Lord said, if you obey my voice, you're going to be the head, not the tail. Everything you touch is going to turn to gold. You're going to be my representatives to bring the rest of my children home. But if you do not obey my voice and keep my commandments, this is what I'm going to do to you. Israel was disobedient. The Lord finally got to a point with their disobedience. He scattered them. He's not a respecter of persons. The nation of Israel was scattered for disobedience, sisters and brothers. Not because the Lord decided that this was the way he wanted to do things. Every action has a consequence. I try to teach my children this. You obey mom and dad, your actions have a favorable consequence. If you're disobedient to mom and dad, your consequences are not favorable. But every action has a consequence. That's what happened to Israel. They were given a choice. Obey me, is going to be my people. Disobey me, I'm going to scatter them. But the Lord wasn't going to replace them. He was just going to scatter them and punish them. Where are you at, brother? 44. Go ahead.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Go ahead, brother.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, and thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of our Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded.
Yes, sir.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. For a sign and a wonder. You can look at the one nation that is a sign and a wonder today and see who Israel is. I'm not letting the cat out of the bag yet. Those of you that don't know who Israel is, but look at it this way. Back in my neighborhood when I was a child, house burned down. 6 months later, bigger, beautiful, modern home goes up. In an Israelite neighborhood, house burns down. Back in the 60s when the police went crazy during the Democratic National Convention, and today the house is still standing, boarded up, with the roof caved in. And I used to wonder, why was that like that? I never knew until I came into some understanding and saw that the nation of Israel is for a sign and a wonder. We'll fill in the blanks. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness, and gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
And it happened because you didn't serve the Lord your God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Skip down to 63 and continue, brother.
And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoices over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even to the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
And the Lord said that he's going to scatter you among all nations. He's going to pluck you up out of the land and scatter you throughout all nations, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone. Israel never knew nothing about Christmas or Easter. They didn't know nothing about that. Israel didn't know nothing about half the junk that's going on today. Kwanzaa? It wasn't anything Israel did. They never served anything with Kwanzaa. They never served anything with Christmas or Easter, Halloween. Israel never served those gods. Israel served the true and living God. But let's continue. Luke, the 19th chapter. Gospel of Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke 19. Let's see what Jesus had to say about the scattering of Israel. Luke 19 and pick it up to 41. Brother, go ahead.
When he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
And when Jesus came near, he beheld the city and he wept over it. Go ahead, brother.
Saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side.
For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench around you, and compass you round, and keep you in on every side. Go ahead, brother.
And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave it in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
Let's go to the Atlas of the Bible. This is from the Atlas of the Bible. And again, sisters and brothers, the only reason I don't bring all these books in, my car's not big enough. Atlas of the Bible. And what we're going to read, brother, is from pages 201 and 202. Go ahead, brother.
The overthrow and suicide of the Emperor Nero brought operations in Judah to a temporary halt, as Vespasian duly withdrew to test the imperial winds. Eventually, he himself was declared emperor, sailing from Rome into the spring of 70. He left his capable son Titus in charge of the campaign against Jerusalem.
So Vespasian, he went back to Rome in the spring of 70 AD, Okay, and his son Titus took charge in the campaign against Jerusalem. Go ahead, brother.
The walls enclosed the temple and the upper lower cities were the most formidable barrier of all, postponing an all-out assault. Titus turned to starvation tactics. A certain amount of food had begun smuggled into the city almost nightly during the siege.
So every night during the siege, food was smuggled in. Sick people were probably smuggled out and everything. They were able to get through the lines. Go ahead.
But now the Romans sealed off Jerusalem completely with the wall of their own.
They sealed off Jerusalem completely with the wall of their own. Go ahead.
Made of earth and some 5 miles in circumference.
What did the master say? When thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. Go ahead, brother.
From the outset of the siege, those attempting to get through the encircling line have been caught and crucified. Sometimes the daily execution reached 500.
Sometimes the daily executions reached 500 executions a day. How, brother?
The crosses were never bare.
By the crosses, by crucifixion. The crosses were never bare. Why you got a cross that you pray into on the wall or wearing one around your neck? It's an idol. Are you representing Jesus or maybe representing one of these Israelites that were killed, 500 a day crucified? The cross, all it is, it's a way to kill somebody. It's a way to torture someone to death. It's an idol if you wear it or pray to it. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Inside the city, starvation and disease claimed mounting toll. Bodies filled the streets and were stacked in houses. Thousands of corpses were thrown from the wall into the valley below.
Jesus prophesied about this. Jesus knew this was going to happen because of Israel's disobedience. Let's go back to Luke, this time the 21st chapter. Luke 21. Luke 21. And let's pick it up in verse 20. Luke 21 and verse 20. Go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Skip down to verse 23 and continue, brother.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
They shall fall by the edge of the sword.
And shall be led away captive.
Led away captive into all nations. Go ahead.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. I don't have a definition for Gentile, but I'm going to show you what Japhet means. Let's go to Genesis, the 10th chapter. Genesis, the 10th chapter. Again, we're not going to deal with these sons, with Japhet or Ham, but we need to show you, in order for us to put a finger on some of the nations that came out of Shem, we have to look at who came out of Japhet and who came out of Ham. Genesis, the 10th chapter, and let's pick it up at verse 1, brother. 10 and 1. Go ahead.
Now these are generations of the son of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Not just sons born after the flood, but they replenished the entire earth after the flood. Go ahead.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphtah, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dudanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families in their nations. The Lord is now using this term Gentile as a race of people. Okay? As a race of people. Sometimes Gentile is used, it just means the other nations other than Israel. But in the way it's used here, he's talking about specific people. Let's go and define Japhet. Let's go and let's define Japhet. Don't come in and bring it. There it is. Come on, Paul. Let's define this out of Smith's Bible Dictionary. This is the definition of Japhet. Go ahead, brother.
Japhet, enlargement. One of the 3 sons of Noah. The descendants of Japhet occupied the Isles of the Gentiles.
So they occupied the Isles of the Gentiles. Go ahead.
That is the coastlands of the Mediterranean Sea in Europe and Asia Minor.
The coastlands of the Mediterranean Sea in Europe and Asia Minor. Go ahead.
Whence they spread northward over the whole continent of Europe and considerable portion of Asia.
And then they spread northward over the whole continent of Europe and a considerable portion of Asia. Your Japheth, or your descendants of Japheth that are Gentiles, are known as white people or Caucasians. You look over there in Europe and you see that they spread over the whole continent of Europe. And what do you see over there? Gentile nations. White people. And what else do you see over there? We'll get into that in a minute. Let's go and let's take a look at Shem. Let's get the definition of Shem. And this is out of Easton's Bible Dictionary. Remember them curses we just read about in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy? What's the definition of Shem, brother?
Shem, a name renowned, the first mention of the sons of Noah.
Uh-huh.
He was probably the eldest of Noah's son. The words brother Japheth, the elder, in Genesis 10:21 are more correctly rendered the elder brother of Japheth, as in the Revised Version. Shem's name is generally mentioned first in the list of Noah's sons. He and his wife were saved in the ark. Noah foretold his preeminence over Canaan. He died at the age of 600 years, having been for many years contemporary with Abraham, according to the usual chronology. The Israelite nation sprang from him.
And we read this.
Israelites.
Israelite?
I'm sorry.
Israelite.
You know, that's it. Israelitish.
Israelitish nation sprang from him. Or the nation of Israel came out of Shem. And we already read that. So the Israelitish, or the nation of Israel, came out of Shem. Now let's look at the definition of Ham. Let's look at the definition of Ham. And this is out of Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. Go ahead, brother.
The youngest son of Noah, probably about 96 years before the flood. One of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races.
So now Ham became the progenitor of the dark races. What a lot of people don't realize, because they don't prove what they read, is when you go into the Old Testament, you're reading basically about a dark race people every time you turn around, with a few exceptions of some Gentiles in there, or some white people. Out of Ham came the black people, the black nations that settled in Africa. Go ahead, brother.
He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro.
Oh, but not the Negro race. But he's the progenitor of all other dark races. You got your Canaanites and your Hivites and your Hittites and all them. Your Egyptians were a dark or a black race people. President Obama is a Hamite. His father is over there in Africa. His father is a citizen in Africa. Who cares where Obama was born? The seed goes through the male. He's a Hamite. Whether he was born over there in Zaire or whatever, or he was born in Hawaii, it doesn't matter. He's a Hamite. He's not an Israelite. And the Israelites are the Negroes. The Israelites are the Negroes. Now, how did you come to this hypothesis, Brother Paul? Because I can't read nowhere where it says that Israel is black. Well, hang around, and you're going to get some more black history. Brother Devin's going to really break it down really good next week. We can't. There's so much with the color of the nation of Israel. There's so much with slavery and with them being scattered, and all these proverbs and bywords and all these signs and wonders and everything. Just think of all the proverbs and bywords that we've read about, or that's one of the curses that we read. Proverb and byword. Let's just look at the ones that we can say that's not going to cause any harm. You've got color, you've got black. African American, you've got Negro. Now look at all the ones that we're not even going to go there to justify that crap. All right? Let me just say a couple of the ones I can say. Gator bait, coon baby, okay? And I'm not going any farther because it's disrespectful. It's an abomination. And I'm not going to get cursed and cut off by my God. The nation of Israel, for a sign and a wonder. Go through their neighborhoods and look at their neighborhoods, all the burned down buildings and empty lots. Go through a Gentile neighborhood. Building burns down, you go back there 3 weeks later, they're starting a foundation. We're going to deal with that next week, though. Let's deal with it. One more scripture, though. Let's go to Isaiah, the 42nd chapter. And then we're going to leave Israel scattered at this. And Brother Devin's going to pick this up next week. Isaiah 42. Isaiah 42. I know I'm not letting the cat completely out of the bag, but I didn't know. You guys got to prove something on your own if you don't know this. You can't turn around and say, well, Brother Paul really broke it down really great. This is what Brother Paul said. Well, Brother Paul broke it down a little bit and told you to go prove it for yourself. Isaiah 42. Isaiah 42. And let's pick it up at verse 21, brother. 42 and 21. Go ahead.
The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable.
Yes, sir.
But this is the people robbed.
Now the Lord is talking about Israel. This is the people robbed and spoiled. Go ahead.
They are all of them snared in holes.
They're snared in holes. Go ahead.
They are hid in prison.
They're hid in prison houses. You go and you look at the population that's in the prison houses, and most of them are Israelites. Or the African American, the Negro, the black, the colored, whatever you want to call it, NAACP. Why that was formed was for the nation of Israel. Those bywords and those proverbs. Go look at the population of all the prison houses around the world. Look at all the slavery. One of the curses we read about in Deuteronomy 28 was that they were going to be removed into all nations around the world. Look at the only nation that has ever been enslaved as far back as you can look into all the nations of the world. Sure, there's been other races that have been enslaved and great injustices have been done. But scattered throughout every nation, you got them Europeans over there in Europe, you got them Caucasians or them white people over there, Italy, France, Spain. And then you cross the other side of the tracks, as they say, and who you got there? Israel. Go ahead and continue, brother.
22. But this is the people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison. They are for a prey and none delivered.
How's that 40 acres of that mule going from our enslavement here in America? Not ours, because it wasn't me. From Israel's enslavement in America. They were going to give every one of those freed slaves 40 acres and a mule. As soon as it started, the right person found out about that, the kibosh was right. Oh, no, we ain't doing that. But then it was, let me think back now. I got out of the military in 90, sometime in 90, 91. All those Japanese that were interned during World War II, they got reparations. We're talking 91, we're talking less than 50 years. What about Israel going on 200 years? Nothing. Ain't nobody restoring nothing to you. Well, about 200 years since Israel, the nation, has supposedly been freed. And that's for a whole nother story. We're not even going to go there. Go ahead and continue, brother.
For spoiled and none says restore.
And none says restore. Yes, sir. You finish that? Go ahead, continue.
Verse 23. Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come?
Go ahead,
who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robber?
So who did this? Who could possibly have a punishment that is so thorough with no loopholes? Man is not that good. Go ahead, brother.
Did not the Lord?
Did not the Lord? Why?
He against whom we have sinned.
He against whom we have sinned. Go ahead.
For they would not walk in his ways. Neither were they obedient unto his law.
In Deuteronomy 28, the 15th chapter, the Lord said, but if you do not keep my commandments, statutes, and judgments, all these curses will come upon you. We only went into a few of them. We'll cover them in the weeks to come. Go ahead, brother.
Therefore he has poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle. And it has set him on fire round about. And it has set Israel on fire round about. In other words, they are always getting beat up, kicked around, smacked around, physically, mentally, and everything in between. Go ahead, brother. Yeah, he knew it not. And it burned him, and he laid it not to heart. And it burned him, and he laid it not to heart. If you think slavery is over today, sisters and brothers, you better open your eyes and look a little bit more, because it's not. The laws, the statutes, and judgments that we have in place today were not put in place for Israel. They were put in place for the Gentiles. Israel at the time were enslaved. Nothing that we have today was even done with Israel in mind, outside of putting it on paper somewhere back in 1865 that they were free.
But please, don't take my word for it. And I'm going to tell you this again. Israel got 10 o'clock class, but you better be back here for the 2 o'clock next week. Let's continue. Obadiah, or did you finish 25, right? Obadiah 1. Obadiah 1. Obadiah 1. Obadiah 1. We're going to look a little bit at Esau now, because we're going to go into Israel all month long. Let's look a little bit at Esau. We've identified Ishmael today. We've identified Israel today, although we didn't go in depth, because we will. Let's identify who Esau is today. Obadiah 1, and let's pick it up at verse 9, brother. 1 and 9. Go ahead.
And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the amount of Esau may be cut off by a slaughter.
Why is the Lord going to do this to Esau? Go ahead, brother.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall come over thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Because why? Esau was supposed to serve the younger. Esau's supposed to serve Israel, or Jacob, or his descendants. The descendants of Esau is supposed to serve the descendants of Israel, or Jacob. And what did Esau did? He cut Israel off by slaughter. Go ahead, brother.
And the day that thou stoodest on the other side, and the day that the stranger carried away captives his forces, and foreigners enter into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was as one of them.
Even you were as one of them, Esau. And this is talking about 70 A.D. Go ahead, brother.
But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, and the day that he became a stranger.
How did Israel become a stranger in 70 A.D.? Don't nobody know who Israel is today. Everybody wants to be Israel except Israel. I deal with a lot of Gentiles that are in the Word today. Why? Because I'm a physical Gentile. Oh, wow. Imagine me dealing with a lot of Gentiles. Every one of them goes, I'm Yisrael. I'm Yisrael. I'm Yisrael. They all want to go like they're with the Hebrew. I'm Yisrael. And they got no clue who Israel is. They look at the spiritual side, and they are correct in that spiritual side, but they don't look at the physical. They don't look at what's going on today in the world today. And when you have an understanding of who Israel is, it takes your fear of God up a level. Because now you see how perfect the punishment is for the crime. And it's a perfect punishment. Not one Israelite that's been scattered today can say, my forefather didn't do it. The punishment fits the crime perfectly. Go ahead, brother.
Neither should thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither should thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou should not have entered into the gates of my people in the day of their calamity.
You mean they entered into the gates of Israel in the day of their calamity? Go ahead, brother.
Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity.
They laid hands on the substance of Israel in the day of their calamity. Israel gets picked up, physically removed out of their land. Here comes Esau, side dancing right in, and he's going to grab the identity, he's going to grab their substance and everything. Go ahead, brother.
Neither should thou have stood in a crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither should thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress.
And those that did remain, those that had escaped, were getting away. Esau's like, there they are, there he is, behind the bush, behind the trees, over on top of the hill in the cave. And then he's taking part of scattering Israel. Go ahead.
For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head.
Wow. What you sow is what you reap. What a novel concept. The way you treat others is the way it's going to come back on you. We watched a movie last night on Netflix called Son of God. And Peter cut the dude's ear off in the garden. And Jesus picked it up and he put it back on and he healed him. He turned around and he looked at Peter. And all they showed was his mouth. And he said, those that live by the sword shall die by the sword. What you sow is what you reap, sisters and brothers. Esau, what they sowed is going to come back on them. But let's continue. Let's look at a couple definitions of, first let's look at a definition of idumea. Idumea and the Idumeans, and this is out of the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. Go ahead, brother.
The west of Arabia, the country that they occupied came to be known by the Greek name Idumea, and the people as Idumeans. Hebron, their chief city, was taken by Judah's Maccabees in 165 BC. 5 BC. And in 126 BC, the country was subdued by John Hyrcanus, who compelled the people to become Jews and to submit to circumcision. After governor of Idumea was made procurator of Judea, Samaria, and Galilee by Julius Caesar. He paved the way to the throne Herod the Great.
Okay, so now you have an Edomite has been set up over Judea, and he paved the way for his son Herod the Great. Go ahead.
With the fall of Judah under the Romans, Idumea disappeared from history.
With the fall of Judah under the Romans, Idumea disappeared from history. We just read that in Obadiah. You got Jerusalem, and I know you can't really see on the board. I don't have any markers here anywhere. It's probably hidden somewhere. But anyway, you got, follow my fingers now, okay? We got to keep in mind all these territories I'm going to draw, because I don't have any markers. You got the water here. You got the sea over here. You got Jerusalem's right here. You got Judah and all that's around Jerusalem. Down here is Idumea, or the land of Idumea. When Israel got scattered in 70 AD, this country Idumea disappeared from history. Just like the Lord had prophesied in Obadiah. Let's continue. Let's go to the last 2 million years. And what we're going to read is page 97. Faith survives the dispersion is the title of this. Go ahead, brother.
Faith survives dispersion. The crucifixion of Jesus about AD 30.
About AD 30, because they really don't know when he was even born. How do they know when he died? Go ahead.
Did not end Jewish resistance to the Roman occupation.
In
70, when the country was again in a state of revolt, Jerusalem, the holy city, became the core of the resistance to the Romans. Titus, the son of Emperor Vespasian III, proceeded to lay siege to Jerusalem. The city fell, and inhabitants were enslaved in their thousands and dispersed throughout the Mediterranean world.
In 70 AD, about 70 AD, okay, the Jewish resistance to the Roman occupation was over. Israel was picked up and they were scattered throughout all nations. At that particular time, Idumea disappears from history. Okay? Let's look at this before the Common Era and all this. This is just a little something I threw in here because we're dealing a lot with the BC and the CE and all this. Before the Common Era is going to explain some of this BE, CE, AD stuff. Go ahead, brother.
Before the current era, or before the Christian era.
So CE also means Christian era. Go ahead.
Date notations equivalent to BC.
And those are date notations equivalent to BC before Christ. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Common era, EC, or current era, or Christian era is equivalent, alternate to AD.
So your CE or your current era or your Christian era is the equivalent alternative to AD. And AD doesn't mean after death. Look it up and tell me what it means, because I'm not telling you. Go to, let's see, where we're at here, before the Common Era. Let's go to the Herodian Kingdom and Era. Now that we know what CE means, it's the same as AD. Go ahead, brother.
The Romans installed Herod as a Jewish client king under Roman rule in around 19 BCE.
So that was before the current era or the Christian era. Go ahead.
As king of Judea, Herod upgraded the temple complex and rebuilt the temple itself.
Okay, so Herod rebuilt the temple. Go ahead.
The structure is known as the Second Temple, and it was the most important of the many improvements Herod made to the city.
Now you got to remember, Herod, he actually took the religion of Israel. Israel was given all of God's commandments, statutes, and judgments, or the oracles. You'll hear that word quite a bit this month, oracles. It just means revelations from God. It was given to Israel. the Idumeans were forced into worshiping the true and living God and circumcised in the whole 9 yards. So by the time Herod became king of Judea, he had the same religion as Israel. He was keeping all the feast days and dietary law and all that. At least he should have been. I don't know what he was doing. But he was forced into serving the true and living God. Go ahead, brother.
After Herod's death, the province of Judea and the city of Jerusalem came under direct Roman rule in 6 BC through Roman procurators and Herod's descendants. In the order of Archelaus, Agrippa I and Agrippa II remained king of Judea until 96 BC, about 30 years after the destruction of the temple.
So 96 CE, or the Christian era, still had Edomites as king over Jerusalem. But in 70 AD, Israel was scattered throughout all nations. So you've got Israel, like we read, removed out of the land, scattered throughout all nations, and you've got Edom still sitting there in Israel almost 25 years later, or better than 25 years later, 70 AD to 96. And you've got Edom over there, and what did they do? They've taken Israel's substance, like we read about in Obadiah. They've taken their name. They've taken their name. Now, whether or not, because there's a big debate about this, whether that's really Esau that's over there now or not, I don't know. I know that some people say the Ashkenazi Jews from Germany are over there now, and that Yiddish is Ashkenaz and all this other stuff. And I don't know. Honestly, I was taught that was Esau or Edom over there in the land. That area has been so beat up and scattered throughout history, it might not be Esau. But there's one fact that remains. It's not Israel. Israel has been picked up and removed throughout all nations. We've identified who Israel is today. The African American or the Negro. Those are the descendants of the nation of Israel today. You got the dark races come out of Ham. Out of Japheth is all your Caucasian races, or white people. And out of Shem, you've got Ishmael, who is the Arabs. You've got Israel, or Jacob, who had his name changed to Israel, who is what we know today as the African Americans or the Negroes. And you can see them all over the world. And then you've got Ham, who is the rest of the dark race people. I'm sorry, then you got Esau. I lost my train of thought there. Then you got Esau, who either is people over there in Jerusalem, or they've been scattered out of Jerusalem, and maybe that's Ashkenazis or whatever. That really doesn't matter. It's not Israel. So you've got Shem, you've got Ishmael, Israel, and Esau. You've got Ham, all the dark race people, and you've got Japheth, all the light race people. Okay? Let me see where I'm at here. I know I got another sheet here, right here. We got one more definition I want to cover today, and that is Edom. And this is out of the Columbia Encyclopedia. This is Edom. Go ahead, brother.
Edom, Idumeans or Idumea, mountainous country called also Mount Seir.
Mount Seir. Okay.
According to the book of Genesis, it was given to Esau, also called Edom, and his descendants. It extends along the eastern border of Arabia Valley, from the Dead Sea to Eilat. Edomite history was marked by continuous hostility and warfare with Jews, Assyrians, and Syrians. At the end of the 2nd century, they were subdued by Hasmonean priest king John Hyrcanus I, forcibly circumcised and merged with the Jews.
See, there's Edom, forcibly circumcised and merged in with Israel. Go ahead.
Herod the Great was Idumea. The Roman group Idumea with Judea and Samaria in one curatorship. After the destruction of Jerusalem, Idumea was included in Arabian Petria.
And that's why you had an Edomite king all the way to 96 CE or AD. Let's continue. We have two more places, and this will be it. Let's go to Psalm, the 83rd chapter. Psalm, the 83rd chapter. Psalm 83. Psalm 83, and brother, we're going to pick it up in verse 1. Psalm 83 and verse 1. Go ahead, brother.
Keep not silent, O God, and hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. The Lord gave us signs and wonders. He gave us enough to the punishments that we know who Israel is. Only one nation's ever been scattered throughout the whole world. Go ahead, brother.
But they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
And who are they that consulted together with one consent and are confederate against Israel? Go ahead.
The tabernacles of Edom.
So first you got Esau. Go ahead.
And the Ishmaelites.
And Ishmaelites. You got Jacob's brothers. Confederate against Israel. You got the Ishmaelites and you got the Idumeans or Esau. Go ahead.
And Moab and the Hagarenes, and Jabal and Ammon and Amalek and the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre.
You got a whole bunch of Canaanites or people that came out of Ham that are confederate against Israel. Go ahead.
Ashur also is joined with them.
You also have some of the other races that are over there. You got the Arabs. Okay, now you take them 12 princes and you look at that nation today or that region today, and you see where they've all settled down in that region today. If you take one country at a time and you do a search into their history, you'll see that most of those countries over there are not the original inhabitants. You've got to go back into history of biblical days to see who Ham really is, who Shem really is, and who Japheth really is together. Because you have to look for those signs to show you who they are. You go right to Genesis, the 10th chapter to start. Then you start looking through encyclopedias, Bibles, dictionaries, and everything else. Exhaust your search. The Lord gave us this internet. What a blessing it is. It's a curse if you let it be, but what a blessing it is. Look at all the wealth of knowledge that's out there. Online dictionaries, Bible dictionaries, encyclopedias, and everything else. Use the scripture to prove all things, and when you take the scriptures and you take the signs out of the book and you take it to the history, you can see who's who and where they're at today. Go ahead, continue, brother.
They have helped the children of Lot. Selah.
Yes, sir. Let's go to Amos, the 1st chapter, and this will be it. Those are all the nations right there confederate against Israel. It said, let's cut them off for being a nation. Do a search into where some of these nations are today. You'll be amazed. Came through it all. Amos 1 and verse 11, brother, and this will be it. We can come up here and we can teach like Brother Devin tells you. You know, we stand up here and we point, all right, let's go here, let's go there. But this book explains itself, sisters and brothers. But you got to do the research on your own. You got to prove all things for yourself. You can't stand on what a man says. You can't stand by what I teach. You can stand on what I teach if you prove it to be true. Last place, 11, brother, and this will be it. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever.
So we'll end with another curse for the nation of Edom. Black History Month. I hate that. I heard a lesson earlier today that said I hate referring to it as Black History Month. I don't know what else to call it. Because it's in this month of February is when we break down all the classes that have some understanding, break down who Israel truly is. This is just the beginning for us, sisters and brothers. This is, like I said in the beginning, it's like a scorecard that shows you the players, kind of like shows you, there's number 55 running around. Who's that? Oh, that's Israel. Who's that? That's right or left. That's kind of like what I wanted to do for this lesson with the descendants of the nation of Shem, or the nations that descended out of Shem. And I thank you for the opportunity to rightly divide God's word, and I really hope somebody got something from this lesson. Okay, do we have any